And then you also have to learn how to work for it. Like you're going to be spending, let's say you started today, you're probably going to be spending the next 4 years saving money and investing into crypto. So saving money for 4 years is a very intelligent, lifelong lesson that you can learn, and you benefit dramatically. And then also like the number, you can become insanely rich from this too. That's definitely a good part of it too.
Yeah.
And the technology is awesome. Like NFTs are really awesome. Like you can integrate NFTs into video games, and then you have the one-of-one outfit in your video game or something that you can sell. It's crazy, right? There's so many different ways that it can go.
January 31st, it is interview time. That's right. So, interview number 3, we're going with the greatest host of the greatest channel on the YouTubes. That's right. It is Bitcoin Benito. Bitcoin Benito had a great hour and 20-minute talk with me, and I think you're going to love it. So what do you need to know to be able to thrive? How many years before you can actually make money? Why is moon math actually not as bad as you think? So can we promise anything? No. But can you try to figure out what's going on? Yeah. How do you figure that out? Well, educate yourself. How do you continue to educate yourself? Well, you need to be consistent. How do you be consistent? You need to have a certain level of dedication. How do you get people dedicated? Well, they need to be excited. They need to believe that it's possible. They need to hear it from people who've done it. They need to hear it from people who are in the middle of doing it. Am I worth $20 million? No. If we see Pulsechain do what Hex did, will I be worth $20 million? Maybe. I'd have to sit down and do the math, but I can tell you this. My life will be in a dramatically different place. Bitcoin Benito has been in for about 7 years. He's been in the crypto game for 7 years, and today was a day that he left a lot of alpha on the table. And when people say that, here's what they mean. Info that can absolutely change your trajectory in life, change the way that you think, and what ultimately is going to be your future, what is going to be your destiny. But let's go line upon line, let's go step by step, and let's figure this out together. And I can't think of a better guest than Bitcoin Benito to try to tell you what mistakes he's made, what successes he's had, and what led to both. So right now, let's wait no longer. Let's get into the host of the greatest channel in the history of YouTube, Bitcoin Benito. Here we go.
I lived in Denver for about a year, but besides that, I've been.
How'd you like Denver?
It was awesome. Denver's amazing.
I've always thought, like, you know, there's some places you've never been to, but you just think you'd like, oh, I'd like to live there. Mm-hmm. That's been one of those places. I've never been there, but I think I'd like Denver.
No, it's amazing. You can do anything that you imagine. Almost like a playground for kids. Almost. It's really cool.
Like they're pretty free up there. I'm from Seattle, and I always felt like there was plenty of opportunity. Seattle's gone a little crazy in recent years, but sometimes freedom brings crazy.
Yes.
So.
Yes.
But
definitely.
Well, cool, man. So I was interviewing Crypto Perfetta. This is like my, I think, 4th like formal interview, but I noticed the thing I enjoyed the most and that other people commented on was when I got into, like, I feel like where we're at now, where the number gets thrown around 3.5-4% of people are in crypto, like of the whole world population. And so we're in balls deep. We're way into crypto, obviously, you and I. But what led? I feel like most people that are in crypto are kind of hustlers. They're into flipping things, like, you know, buying something, selling it, or seeing an opportunity to start a business. And I know you're programmer. Is that correct?
Yeah.
But are you that type that has always been one to see an opportunity or a scheme or a hustle here, there? Because it kind of seems like it, even starting a YouTube channel's like, it doesn't pay off for a long time, right?
Yes.
Depending on what you're even looking for, it may not pay off. It may not pay big numbers and all that stuff. But Tell me about like growing up. What was that like for you? Like the mindset that ultimately led you to crypto.
Yeah, so I've always been like into starting businesses, even like when I was, I guess you would say in high school. Like I would sell like candy and stuff in the middle of class.
That's what
Like
Crypto Perfetta did. He
yeah,
started selling candy at school. That's
selling
awesome.
candy in school, and then I like tried to make some albums, some hip hop albums, and then I tried
Oh,
to make
nice.
like some games too. Like remember when Flappy Birds came out? I tried to make
Yeah.
like my own version of Flappy Birds and with like advertisements before. I try to do advertisements on Instagram and
How did
advertisements.
that go?
I did it before Instagram even did advertisements themselves. So I'll just like
Oh,
contact comedians and stuff and be like, "Go, can you put my video on your page?" Yeah, put my
interesting.
app on your page. Yeah. So I had to like do real guerrilla hustling for it. So then I got
Yeah.
into crypto in like let's say 2017. I really got into it like when everyone else got into it, right?
Yeah.
2017 around the fall. I put a lot of money in it. I spent like 10 hours a day studying it. And then I held on until the middle of 2018. And by then everything crashed and I was like, I hate this,
Yeah.
the worst thing of all time. So then I didn't pay attention to it again until like the beginning of 2020, like 2019. I
Hmm.
started paying attention to it again. I was like, okay, yeah, it crashed last time, but the fundamentals are still there. The fundamentals are still good. No one can steal your
Right.
crypto. It's impossible to defraud it unless you give someone your seed phrase. It's
Yeah.
impossible. So many benefits from that. There's no government that can control it. You can't even control it really. You can't create more Bitcoin without more than
Right.
20 million Bitcoin. I mean, so it has such great fundamentals. I was like, this is absolutely amazing. This is going to change the world. And then from there, I was like, oh shit, I'm probably going to get rich off of this. So what am
Yeah.
I going to do like after I'm rich, right? So even back
Right.
then, I said, like it's a long process. You usually don't get rich after the first bull run.
Right.
Some
Takes
people
two
do.
or three.
It
Yeah.
takes 2 or 3 years. So I was like,
Yeah.
okay, so if this is going to take like 8 years or 12 years or whatever, what am I going to do long term? So then I started
Right.
doing videos like this and education. Like I have a course and stuff, education program, just trying to feel my way around things and just learn about the process for the long run, for the long
So,
term. I mean,
so you got into Bitcoin. When did you get into Ethereum?
around the same time, like
Around the same time.
2017, I like studied everything: Ethereum, Bitcoin, Monero. You remember Monero?
Yeah.
Monero,
Yeah. Eh,
all of them.
Well,
Cardano.
so you have a programmer mentality because you are one, obviously. But did you go to school for that, or did you teach yourself how to do it?
No, I taught myself, or pretty much
Okay.
I went to a boot camp. So the boot camp was like 6 months. We're all
Oh,
needed
okay.
you're in there for like 12 hours a day, 12-hour days.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
So I wanted
so
to.
yeah, it was that happy medium. I mean, 12-hour days for 6 months is
It's
that might be
crazy.
the equivalent of like 4-year degree.
I
that's
know.
a
And it was
that's a
it was
crazy
crazy, it was
experience.
insane, but even afterwards, when you get on the job market, it's still not exactly what you learned at
Right.
school. There's no
Yeah,
way around.
that was my experience with Spanish was,
Mhm.
you go through 4 years and you think, oh, I have a good grasp of this. And then you go to Tijuana and you realize I don't understand a thing. Like
You don't
this is
understand
crazy. I
anything.
was, yeah. And then you're there for a day immersed in it. And you're like, I think I've learned more today than I did in the 4 years. And you're like, how is that possible? How could I have been so blind to what I thought I knew
Mhm.
versus reality? And just crazy. And
Is it
so
because everyone talks slang all the time or what?
that was a big part of it was slang and then practicing with other, gringo's not a bad term, but
Mhm.
listening to me speak versus listening to someone who uses slang and then is just so they don't have to think about the phrases like that we
Yeah.
use in English. Like they don't have to think about it. So it just rolls off the tongue at a speed. Like I would speak slower, so I would technically probably now not consider myself fluent, but I spent 2 years speaking Spanish in like San Diego, right up against the border. So not
Mhm.
in Tijuana, but you know, right up there against the border, in Imperial, what was it called? Imperial Valley.
Okay.
Anyways, in California. And was a cool experience. But what I was wondering, kind of relating that experience to programming is, when you learned about Ethereum, were you what did it just absolutely blow your mind at the possibilities compared? Because when I learned about Bitcoin, I thought, oh, this is cool. And it was, so I actually first put money in on my birthday, which is mid-January in 2018. So I saw a magazine in our office that was the Christmas, the big 20K Christmas in 2017. And I had actually been listening to Richard Hart a little bit, but I had never actually gone through the process of learning how to put money on. And anyway, so I got in technically very beginning of 2018.
Yeah.
But I didn't learn about Ethereum for like 6 months. And then I really got into it because I felt like Ethereum just was way more my speed. And I liked the idea of being able to build on it, and that was going to attract more people rather than kind of a coin that had been out for 10 years already and was just finished. That's how I felt. That's how I looked at it. Did you look at it in the same way, or did you feel there was more opportunity with Bitcoin?
So I learned about everything all at the same time because as soon as I
Yeah.
discovered it, I was like, this is crazy. Like in 2017. So I started off with Bitcoin, and then Sam Antonopoulos, I think that's his name. He
Yeah.
used to talk about Bitcoin all the time. I forgot how to pronounce his name. He's from Greece. Yeah. And
Yeah.
then as soon as I got into Bitcoin, I got directly into Ethereum. Then I got into Cardano because I was like, oh, Cardano is like the Ivy League of Ethereum, the Ivy League version. So I went into that.
Oh, that's interesting. You thought of it like that.
That's why I think
Yeah.
about it, because even right now, it's still taking them out forever to come up with anything like substantial. So
Yeah. And what is Zen? Zen's going to be like, they're even faster. I guess we'll have to see what Zen does.
yeah,
They're going to have some price performance, but it's interesting to look. Like, I feel like your channel, when I went back and looked chronologically through the videos, I was like, that's how I felt. I was just kind of learning and absorbing it all for the first 6 months, and kind of learning Bitcoin and like, wait, what is proof of work? And just this whole nother language. There are no classes in college and stuff you can go, and so you learn on YouTube, and you're like chronologically looking at your videos. It's like stuff on Bitcoin, and then it's all about Pulsechain, and there's some stuff about Ethereum, and like videos on, hey, what is an NFT? Like a lot of good informational and educational stuff. And speaking of that, I gotta remember to throw up these. I call them my shill tags, but yeah, there we go. But yeah, so on your channel, you've got awesome stuff, and a lot of it is this good balance of, I call it moon math, and like just getting people excited. Like,
yeah,
it's ultimately their decision what they do with their money. So I hate it when people are like, hey, don't talk about what it could do. Okay, well, we're all here for the money, and we do want to know about coins and their potential. And so I think you have to be responsible with it. But I feel like your channel does a really good job of balancing that, because you talk all about Pulsechain, and like you're giving people really good information and getting them excited. And if they're not excited and paying attention, they're going to miss out on these great opportunities. So it's almost like necessary to not do what some of the channels do, which is just kind of lie to people, pull up charts, get them confused, and then just try to get them to do leverage trading or whatever the new scheme is. But you do a good job of like, hey, here's what I think is going to happen. Here's what I want you to do. And I don't hear people take that tact because they're so afraid of, hey, no financial advice. I actually don't think, I don't even know what I feel anymore. I feel like that. I don't know how I feel about the financial advice thing that people do, because they'll give financial advice and they'll say, oh yeah, no financial advice. And it's like, we're here trying to all succeed. And
It's
I don't
because
know,
of
what do you think of that?
I think it's like a combination of rules and regulations. Like if your channel gets too big, and then let's say that the IRS looks at your videos, then they could be like, oh, you gave people financial advice. But in reality, we're all here for like financial advice, right?
Yes.
You want to become smarter from it. Yeah, YouTube too might demonetize your channel if you say that this is financial advice and you're not a CPA or something. But that hardly ever happens.
That's true.
It's true, they could do that, but that never happens. The real
But
reason though
you're
is that
not saying it. You're just giving. I felt like it was great advice when you were like, "Hey, here's
yeah,
what's going. This is absolutely going to happen. PulseX is gonna dump immediately, and it's going to dump because everybody is going who missed the sacrifices is going to take what they were able to sacrifice for and use a portion of it to buy Pulsechain. And
yeah,
that's I don't know how long that'll last, but I've heard you say, here's what I want you to do. Just relax, and on day 30, after a month, I think prices will stabilize. Well, if you go look at the history of any chart, that's pretty good advice. You're
yeah.
not saying, oh, every coin always goes down or goes up. Like, yeah, that first couple days can be crazy.
It's insane.
And Pulsechain, like, what do you think is going to happen? I mean, that was the basics of what PulseX might do and Pulsechain, but what do you think? Is there any way to know what exactly is going to happen any more in depth with those two?
Yeah, but just based off of how coins normally launch, how tokens normally launch, they always go crazy within the first week to a month. Like even Zen did the same thing too. The first week it was so expensive, like crazy prices,
Yeah.
like 1,000 times higher than the prices right now. But that was the first week, so
Yeah.
you don't know if it was going to go higher or lower. So then, of course, it went lower because you can mint as much as possible.
Yeah.
So if you and you bought some Zen then, you would be bankrupt now, right? So that's why
Yeah.
have to tell people to be cautious. But based off of history, what normally happens, it explodes the first week or month, and then it goes down, stabilizes, and then you can start buying. So even Zen stabilized around like November. So it's been about the same price since November. Of course, it's lower, but it's about the same price.
Right.
Meanwhile, October was 20 times the price and stuff. So you have to be
Yeah.
cautious how you approach it.
How do you feel about Zen? Since we kind of brought that up, there are going to be people that don't see the other stuff, like the other show that we did. So I'm going to kind of pretend like we didn't talk on the other show. But how do you feel about Zen and that whole movement?
I think that Zen is like a perfect mix between Ethereum and Bitcoin. So when it comes to Bitcoin, it's about how it was released. Like Bitcoin was released for free. Pretty much, you used to be able to just go to a faucet and just get like 2 or 3 Bitcoin every single day, which is crazy. Just like click a button and it'll be like, okay, come back in 8 hours. We'll give you another Bitcoin. So that's the same thing that's happening right now with Zen. Zen, you can mint as much Zen as you want right now, for free, kind of, sort of, but it's like $5. But Zen doesn't get any of that $5. It's the Ethereum gets that $5, right?
Right.
So it's just the cost of business. So AKA it's pretty much free to mint Zen, and then you can mint as much Zen as possible. And then
it was made as free as they could make it, right? They couldn't
possible, yeah. And then like it has a lot of educational purposes too. Because I remember him saying at the very beginning, I'm doing this for educational purposes. And I'm like, maybe. Or maybe you just want to make another version of Bitcoin. But then I realized that he immediately came out with NFTs on this. And now he's going to be doing stake NFTs. And then he's going to be doing a layer 1. And then flash loans. So I was like, wow, I guess he really is doing education. He's doing education through actually putting out these programs, putting out these protocols to do the point. And it's like as cheap as humanly possible. You can't really get cheaper than the gas fees. So it makes sense.
And there is a really strong community, which it's at some point, when I talked to Jack, I was like, hey, there's 2 things that you need. I think you're nailing one of them. And you've got to have community. And then the other thing, I guess it was actually 3 things, but you have the community. It needs to continue to grow. You've got the onboarding. Like, this is a great tool for onboarding. But eventually this has to pivot, and it has to have some sort of stabilization for price. You're doing all these things to try to help with burning the coin and to try to level this out. But if this does go to 18 zeros and then to 28 zero, like, you're not going to be able to accomplish some of the goals that I've heard you talk about. Like, hey, I want this to be used for all purposes on all chains, but specifically I want it to be used as like a form of tender, the ability to pay for things with it. Well, you can't have it continue to lose money and for people to use it like that. And so if he's able to accomplish his goals, there's going to need to be a pivot at some point. And that led me to one of the notes I took down when I've been watching your videos for a while now, but I really liked some analysis that you did that you've recently said has actually changed already, but you did a whole bunch of math on Zen. And I was wondering if you could kind of talk about that just briefly with that video and what the overall point was of where Zen's going and how you came up with the math and why you think that might have already changed a little bit.
Yeah, there was a person on Twitter that I saw where he did the calculations of when the amount of time for the maximum mint, the maximum claim length, when it's going to reach the amount of fees that you have to pay to do a regular mint. You know what I mean? So
So
for
break even.
a break even, yeah. So with
Okay.
Zen, maximum amount of days that you can do a claim to mint, like let's say that you mint it right now, but you're not able to get it until like how many days is right now it's about 445 days. So usually when you do that mint claim for 445 days, you get tons and tons of money at the end. But because the price of Zen is constantly dropping, he was like, okay, so I think it's going to break even where after 443 days, you're only going to get this amount of money in USD. And that USD will be completely equal to the fees that you pay for minting and all that stuff, right?
Okay.
So yeah, so pretty much like to mint one wallet in Zen costs about $5, $6. So he's saying that when is the time that $5, $6 is how much you're going to get 400 days from now, and that's going to be when the price reduces to 0.003, right? So then I had to do a linear regression to then do a test or do an estimate of when that 0.3 is going to hit the way that Zen has been reducing in price. And that point where it connected was like around March, right? And then of course I was like, okay, this is just an educated guess. This is not guaranteed, right? This is just a random moon boy math is what they call it, right?
Yeah.
But then some people were bringing up other points that like we might actually hit the bottom sooner than that because new projects keep coming out over and over and over. And in fact, they were like, maybe we already hit the bottom because Phoenix is a protocol that's coming out that burns Zen. And then X1, in order to get X1 token, you have to burn Zen. In order to get the high level NFTs, you have to burn Zen. And then he came out with this staking NFT, which is not necessarily burning Zen, but it like holds Zen for up to 1,000 days. It freezes Zen for 1,000 days, right? So you might as well consider that a 1,000-day burn. So all of these things are just removing the Zen supply from the wider ecosystem. So that's going to make the price go up high, and therefore maybe the bottom has already happened. So yeah,
interesting. Well, and it's impossible to know because there are all these there's macro events within crypto, and then there's macro events outside, like the CPI report. And tomorrow we're going to find out what the Fed comes out and says, hey, we're going to do 75 basis points. That's going to crush everything. And we're going to see Zen follow suit. They're going to follow. And obviously it's Fed controls, interest rates, which hits the stock market, which hits Bitcoin, which hits Ethereum. It's dominoes, and it hits all the other altcoins typically, but sometimes there will be a decoupling. And that was one of the things that everybody in the Hex community was saying about 2 years ago, is that it was decoupled. And now we've seen it seem like it follows along with the macro situation. What do you think about that? Because that is something that I don't hear a lot of people talk about right now. Do you think Hex is correlated to Bitcoin, or is it totally separate?
I think that every coin acts like almost a person. Like when they're young, they're just wild and free. They can go up, they can go down, they can crash, they can do anything. But after a while, like after its first bull run or whatever, it starts to stabilize and it starts to go exactly where all the rest of the market is going. Crypto is a little bit more volatile; it changes more.
Yeah.
But even Bitcoin itself follows the regular S&P 500. It follows the Nasdaq. It didn't used to when it was younger. It didn't used to. It just did whatever it wants. But now that's a more stable coin. Now it follows it directly.
And
But with its 4 year cycle though, it has more power to change things during its that fourth bull run year. It has more power to just break away. But even when it breaks away, it eventually comes back down and stabilizes with the rest of the market. So,
right. Do you think it could just be as simple as this? That what you said is absolutely true. But is it just that eventually, once enough eyes get on it and it has, a purpose, a product market fit,
mhm.
the guys with big money, big bags, institutional money, they start to get involved, and that ultimately means more liquidity is needed by them or by other people, and then the more liquidity gets involved, the more it's just that thing that Richard Hart said. He calls it Hart's law or whatever, but basically it's, hey, if I have the majority of my liquidity in Ethereum, well, it's now tied to Ethereum. Do you
Yeah.
agree with that?
I guess so. You could agree with that, but then because crypto is so dynamic, people can just pull things out anytime they want to. Like someone could just pull out $100 million out of Ethereum's system right now if they wanted to,
Yeah.
and that would cause the price to crash probably like 10%. You would think that $100 million is not that much of a grand scheme of things because it's billions and billions, but actually, like a little pullout that's really dramatic
Mhm.
will then cause other people to pull out, and then has a cascading effect, right? So,
Yeah,
um,
that's true. In and of itself, it wouldn't be that big of a deal, but it's like, why when a bunch of coins get stolen? This was an interesting thing that Jesse brought up. Like an FTX happens, or we had a ton this last year, but any one of those events happens where coins get stolen. Um, FTX is a bad example, but let's say a hacker steals a bunch of coins. Well, he doesn't immediately sell those coins. Like
yeah,
typically he's stolen those coins. Why does the market crash? And it's like, well, it's contagion. It's
yeah,
that's part of it, and the other part is I think institutions start to see, oh, look at all the money that just disappeared, and that's potential liquidity. That's our potential exit plan. And so if we can't be the smartest and know what's going to happen in the future, and we can't innovate or change the situation, then let's be first.
yeah.
And
Yeah,
then they start the downward cycle. And I think they try to do it on the other side too. They try to be the first in, obviously buying the bottom, but yeah, man, it's interesting. It's hard because I've noticed myself with all these delays in Pulsechain. I'm so excited for Pulsechain. I remember talking to my wife about like a year ago. Like, you
mhm,
realize like it's going to take like 2 years, but you realize in 2 years like there's going to be exciting things happening,
yeah,
and I still think that, but now I think it's probably 2.5 to 3 years because I have to. It's 2 years after Pulsechain comes out, and
I know.
who knows when that'll come out. But you're a programmer, so you have a little bit of an insight where I don't. When Richard Hart comes out and he gives these crazy, obviously these are really high level devs, so when they're talking about super high level stuff. So even if
Mhm.
I was a developer, um, I may not understand it, but I'll take what they say and try to really like, hey, I'm going to try to understand this 10% better than I did. So I'll break down terms and, do some Googling and stuff. And one of the things I wanted to ask you is, when I hear the word programmer, I think developer, dev. Is that, where am I wrong? What's the difference? Or are they the same? Or what's the distinction?
They're pretty much the same what they mean right now. But back in the day, programmers were the ones that actually wrote the iOS or the operating system and stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
And the developers would like develop on top of it. But nowadays, they pretty much mean the same thing, right? So,
Interesting. And
so
what kind of languages do you work with when you say you're a
uh,
developer?
mobile development, so Java,
Java. Okay.
Swift for iOS. Yeah,
And when you heard Richard Hart say, "Hey, the majority of things built on crypto or built in crypto are old, and they're constantly being hacked because they're not doing a good enough job with the development." And
yeah.
then we've seen a couple little pivots, and I don't want to go over all those, but I was wondering, when you heard him say, "Hey, we're gonna go to Golang, we're gonna we're gonna shift over. Is that because that's what's used by the most secure big software companies? Do you have
Yes,
any insight in that?
some of them do use Golang. Yes, Google uses Golang, right? So, but it's not necessary to make a perfect program. So he could have. I think he wants to make his software as perfect as possible, like impossible to be hacked. But the thing
Right.
with software is that it's not. It's never done. You can never have a perfect piece of software ever.
Yeah.
You constantly have to improve it. But I guess he wants to make it as perfect as possible. So that's the problem. I don't think he should have given out 2 weeks in May of 2022
That
because,
I didn't
because
care about any of the other updates. In 2 months, like I never put any value in that. But when he said May 15th, 50% chance, and then 1 week after that, 75% chance, I was like, oh well, we're July 4th. I gave a
exactly.
guarantee to my wife. I was like, listen, I don't know about the May 15th, May 22nd, but July 4th, this thing is out. Like there's no, and I know he said, he was given the update and he gave it out, but it is very difficult to
Mhm.
be like, if I'm working on a project that you've given me and it is it is sort of innovative and new.
Yeah.
Um, and I am a year and a half late. Like I don't know. It gets a little weird. I see how people can kind of question it or lose trust. But do you think this is obviously him trying to get it right, but more of a timing the market than anything else? Let's just keep working on it until we think the moment's right. Obviously,
I-
you don't know. I'm just asking for a guess.
yeah. I think he's timing the market. I think that's what most people think. People that are against him think that he's timing the market. People that are for him think that he's timing the market. Everyone thinks that that's what he's doing because it's true. It doesn't make any sense. Um, and I'm guessing while he's timing the market, he's improving the software over and over and over. I know that
Yeah.
he switched away from the Bitcoin's ecosystem, the Bitcoin Smart Chain version, to Ethereum 2.0's version of the coding that
Right.
he's doing. So I yes, that does take time, but
Yeah.
I I don't think it takes this much time. Like if I was working on any if I was working for any company ever and I gave out an estimate and I was like a year late, 2 years late, I'd be fired. Right.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
don't know how
Well,
long it's gonna take, but you do have a good idea of how long it's gonna take. You always have a good idea.
and
Like
I
always. So it's kind of that's why we say that he's definitely timing the market because you always have like you always know if okay, I'm probably gonna come out with it in the next 3 months for sure, guaranteed.
Right, right. How much of your history has been involved with like charting? Like when you said you dove all in, you dove into Bitcoin, and how much getting into the traditional charting
Mhm.
was your first few months of education? Did you get into it at all?
I mean, yeah, a little bit, but at first I was getting into the technology, and
Yeah.
the technology was so big that I was like, it doesn't even matter about the charts per se, because this is such a new dramatic technology. People are just going to bum rush into it, kind of like in the internet, 1999. I mean,
Yeah.
I was a kid when it exploded, right? So I couldn't do any of this stuff, but
Right.
when it,
As was I, but I still remember I remember watching the news like
yeah,
on the crash of '01 or whatever it was. But yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
it was crazy, right? But it was taking over the world. AOL was all over the place. There are little AOL CDs, or like in
I remember this.
you would have to you have to take the CDs and then like put it in your computer,
We
stuff
used to
like
have
that.
a whole stack of them, like 5
Yes,
free hours or
yeah,
which is
$5 and which is crazy.
it's a
And
weird
it's the slowest
concept.
internet of all time. I remember using it. I was like, this is dumb.
Yeah, and that crazy sound, and then I was this is not totally related, but I was telling a little kid the other day I just made a comment about texting, how much they're texting. I was like, "Yeah, we used to have to pay per text." And
Yes.
they're like, "What? How did that work?" And I was like, well, when anything new comes out, once they figure out that hey, this is gonna catch on, they try to charge you as much as they can.
Of
But
course.
I think it'll be interesting to see what I like about the Hex community and the Pulsechain community is how nimble. Like I think that is a positive thing. Some people will say, "Oh, they're brainwashed," and there's a little bit of that, but I like the fact that, hey, Ethereum, the merge happened, and instead of, saying, hey, one of the key selling points was the biggest airdrop of all time,
Mhm.
that's gone. Now, what are we going to do? Well, Richard Hart's very, very, very good at this, and I think he doesn't try to put himself in bad spots, and he's always going to focus on what is the best thing that he can offer with whatever it is, Hex, or in this case, Pulsechain. Do you think that we need to have a greater focus on onboarding? Because I think he needs to shift away from, well, he's still going to talk about, hey, everybody's going to get their free coins. But if
Mhm.
those coins and communities don't come over, there won't be that much value in said coin. So it's really all about getting those people in the community over. And so when I was talking to Jesse about Power City and Liquid Loans, these are things that are being built on Pulse Chain. And I was wondering if you've been paying attention at all to some of the stuff that is potentially being built on Pulse Chain.
Yeah, I've been paying attention to stuff like liquid loans and Hedron and Fiat. Fiat is actually the interview that you were talking
The
about
guy.
earlier. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, I
Fiat is.
saw Fiat in there and I was like, I can't remember if that's the guy from Fiat. What was Fiat? I
Yeah.
can't remember. I remember that I was looking at sacrificing for it and I ended up not doing it. But what is Fiat again?
Fiat, they're like an ecosystem of coins. They have another coin, I think it's called Fatty, where it just pays attention to the market or something. But Fiat itself allows you to stake it and earn more fiat, or you can borrow against it. Like you could use your hex as collateral and then get
Okay.
fiat. And then when you're done using your fiat to pay your bills or to go party or whatever, you pay the fiat back, and then you get your hex back too. So
Oh,
it
interesting.
acts like a stable coin kind of, but I have to look more into it. It acts like a
Yeah.
stable, but not really. That's why it's called fiat, right? So,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And that, yeah. So it's kind of a,
but it's related to the Pulse chain ecosystem. Like its main focus is in the Pulse chain ecosystem.
and so they're not out yet. Is that correct?
I
It's okay if you don't know. I mean,
don't
I know
know.
you.
I heard that they might have a. Hold
Reppin' the 202, Nexus sitting on 22s. My spinner stay spinning like the CD.
on. That's the album that came out like 15 years ago.
Who was that? I could barely. It was muffled.
It was my friend actually, but I was the one that did
Oh,
the
really?
I did the instrumentals. Yeah.
So that's interesting. I've had this string of people like you, Spruve, uh, Crypto Profeta, all are big into music. And then I was talking to Jesse, and he's really big into trumpet of all instruments,
Yeah.
and guitar. And he was like, what I really wanted to do is do. Uh, I thought I was going to go in the direction of like recording music, and I was like, this is crazy. The first four people I've kind of interviewed are all into recording because Crypto Perfecto was, I mean, he's got songs that he's selling, and he's got a little studio and stuff. And how much, like, is that a big hobby, or is that part of like, do you make money from it, or what are you doing with your music and recording and stuff?
Yeah, so I don't do anything with music right now. In fact,
Okay.
that was from high school actually. That was like actually 15 years ago or so.
Right. So that was a
But
bit ago.
yeah, it was a
Yeah.
long time ago. But this is when FLP first came out, the
Okay.
development software, or whatever.
Right.
So I had a computer in ninth grade, and I was like, oh, let me try it out. Tried it out with my friends. So then we like made music in ninth grade. So
Nice.
but yeah, I just really love music. I love producing music. I haven't done it in a while. Maybe like 10 years was the last time I did it. But it's like I love it so much that I was like, I could do this for free.
Right. Yeah.
Really good thing.
What
Jesse too, he randomly plays his guitar during his streams. Like he plays the guitar all the time.
See, that's
And
funny. I've never heard him do that. Does he do that a lot?
in one of the live streams that I was in, he was playing his guitar. Yeah.
Oh, really? Interesting. That's cool. Yeah, I think I was so mad about the audio. He sat down for like an hour and a half, and it was great. The second half was perfect. So at least I got like 50 minutes, 45 minutes. But yeah, it was just so choppy because he was in a hotel, and
Oh
he was
yeah,
actually using his travel setup, which is really nice, but it requires high, good internet. And I think he just had the normal hotel internet. So anyways, he switched to his phone and it worked out. But it was interesting to talk to him, because yeah, his history, he had all these cool stories about hustling, and then how like music led him to the military, and then that ultimately, kind of led him down a path that took him, to meet somebody that, kind of introduced him to Bitcoin. And it's interesting because he was like, I don't know what it is, but everybody you talk to gets in 2017. And I was like, yeah, I mean, I got in January of 2018 and you got in 2017. And we're like, what are we just not realizing that lots of people get in every bull cycle? And that
yeah.
was kind of the peak of it. And we just don't realize that there's just as many people that got in, and, when Bitcoin hit 69,000 or but everybody I talked to, for the most part, says, yeah, I got in around 2017. At least the people that are streaming.
Yeah.
But then the people around me, I don't know, like the people that I know or work with, I could think of like one person that is in crypto.
Mhm.
Do you have a similar experience? Do you know lots of people like around you, like physically, that are into crypto, or does it feel like it's very far and few in between?
People are really, really into crypto when there's a bull run, but
Mm.
otherwise, no one cares about crypto at all. Like in 2021, my mom was asking me, "Oh, can you like download Coinbase on my phone and show me how to buy as much crypto and Ethereum?" I was like, "Wow!" I never even told her anything about Ethereum. She was asking me
Interesting.
how to download Ethereum, right? But now, of course, now that Ethereum has crashed in price, no one really talks about it anymore. But
Which
because
is
we
the
know
opposite
it's
of
the
how it
opposite.
should be.
But because we know it has like true power and is always going to come back every 4 years, like forever. Like
Yeah.
this is one of the most intelligent software slash stock ish investment that you can make. Once in a lifetime opportunity. So
Well,
that's
and
what
it's such a cool thing too, because it's the yes, you'll hear people say we're not early. Well, of course, depending, like that's you can get real nuance and you can go either way with it. But when you're talking about the stock market, I remember just it was feeling so daunting. Like I would sit down, I would watch Jim Cramer every day. I'd be watching tons of YouTube videos, reading books, and then even getting textbooks from ASU, Arizona State, and like I read two of them front to back. And then I would apply what I learned and then realize, yeah, but then there's buy the rumor, sell the news events. There's all these other things that are just as important, if not more. And I was like, man, I wish I could have been in stocks at the beginning when there weren't so many people that knew the real game, and I don't quite understand it. And I remember just feeling it was just daunting. And
Mhm.
then I feel that Bitcoin's or that crypto is kind of like that right now. It's gonna be. I once I recently heard somebody say this next bull run is going to be crazy, and then we're never going to see crazy number of X's for the average coin
Yeah.
anymore. Too many people being now. I don't know if he's right, but I do think it gave me a sense of urgency, specifically for like people around me, like my dad and even myself. Like, hey, you need to get in right now because I agree with you. It's going to be here for the long run. This is like I think the stock market will like the two will sort of merge. Like stock market, there will be the ability to buy coins for every company that has, that's a blue chip stock, like Apple and any of those companies will eventually have their own token. But I was wondering, do you agree with that? Do you think it'll go that way where the stock market kind of turns into Web3 crypto based, or do you think they'll always be separate and it'll kind of look like they look now?
They're always going to be separate, but they're always going to be connected at the same time because it's going to be like its own internet, almost like the way that remember when the internet first came out, when it became like really popular was maybe 1999 or so, something like that.
Yeah, the first 5 years were weird, right? Like, it was
It was
hard to
very
get
different,
on still.
but everyone knew that was a big deal. Like even during the first five
Yeah.
years, you couldn't do anything major with it. Everyone knew it was going to be a big deal, and I think that like that's where we are right now with crypto. We are right before when the smartphone comes out. Like we're right before when iPhone comes out. When the iPhone came out, that's when the internet changed forever, pretty much.
I like what you just said. So put it in terms of years. So Bitcoin coming out in '08, but
Mhm.
we'll just forget about 2008. I guess technically 2009, but the paper
Yeah.
comes out in '08. Anyways, um, that's like 1995. So
Mhm.
2009, Bitcoin coming out, it's like the internet coming out. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah.
And now you feel like we're right before the iPhone, which is like what, 2007,
Yeah,
2006?
iPhone came out in 2007. Yeah, so we're like 2000 right now. This year is like 2005, 2006.
Okay,
That's where we
yeah.
are right now. So in this
And
next bull run, like DeFi is going to become regular to regular people during this next bull run. Like companies are going to be using DeFi for everything too. And a lot of countries too are going to also be introducing. So some governments will be like giving you a heavy discount. Like let's say food stamps, they'll start giving out food stamps and CBDCs, and they're like, oh, they'll try to convince people that you get 10% more food if you use the CBDC versus if you use a US dollar, right? So then it's going to become way more mainstream. It's almost like DeFi is going to be like the cell phone for the way cell phone was for the internet. DeFi is going to be for crypto.
so like a catalyst, basically.
Yeah.
So what do we lack? Because basically what I'm hearing you say is we don't lack anything other than just the excitement that comes from a bull run, like your mom, right? What has changed? Well, just simply her hearing about it and the price moving up. Because
Yep.
that it's like, I don't think most people, including her, care that it's at 1,500 or 1,200 or 4,000. They want to see it, have an upward trajectory because it's exciting, and just FOMO and all that stuff kicks in. And it sounds like you're saying, hey, we just need to see that kick in again. Enough people have paid attention
Mhm.
to Christmas of 17, and then when it went to 69,000, and the advancement of like the phone, that's made it a lot easier. Like having MetaMask on your phone may not be the most secure thing, but it's the best for onboarding. I mean, if to try to sit down with somebody is, that wants to be onboarded, and you're doing it at work, well, you're going to go to the phone. And
Yeah.
so you just think it's an amount of time. So obviously, next bull run at a minimum is going to be 6 months after the halving. So by the
Mhm.
end of 2024, we should be into the bull run.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that?
Yeah. The bull run is like actually very predictable since 2000. What is it? 13. Yeah. Since 2013, it's been very predictable. Where it happens every 4 years, like near the end of the year, every
Mm-hmm.
single year, every 4 years, either November or December, and then
It's
that's when
off a block height. That's why we don't know exactly, right? But it is basically 4 years, right?
it's basically 4 years, and it's very accurate too, within like a couple of months difference.
Yeah.
And then the altcoins also. So Bitcoin will have its max in like December or November, and then the altcoins will have their max in like January or February of the next
Okay.
year. Right? It's like 2-3 months afterwards, and it's happened like 3 times in a row. It's probably going to almost likely happen again.
So people that are preparing and wanting to like really take it seriously, like, hey, I want to try to have a significant change, because I always think about people like the moon math's fun because it gets people excited. And, I was learning about like, oh, how do I make a cool intro, like a cool stinger for my videos? And I was watching a guy that does a lot of videos and advice on YouTube he was actually Logan Paul's editor, and he's from England. And he's like, no stinger, no intro. The reason is you've got to get into it immediately. You have 5 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, man, obviously I'm not going to disagree with him. I thought I needed to spend all this time making a cool intro, and I have one, but it absolutely is true. Like, I look at the retention on my videos, and yeah, it's, if they stick for a while, but most of them are gone in the first 20 seconds. So how does that apply to interviews? How does that apply to crypto? Well, the moon math is one thing that works. And so if you can do what you've done on your channel, and do it in a responsible, good way, that's perfect. It gets people to stick and ultimately educate themselves. And the interesting thing is, right now, when it's bloody and a terrible bear market, is when people need to be trying to figure out, how do I get a little bit in, $100 a paycheck or whatever I can do? How do I get that in, and daily cost average, or just try to get into things that I think, and just the research of figuring out what you're going to put it into is really, really difficult. And is why it's nice when you find somebody like a Richard Hart who does Hex, and you have so much success with that, and then they come out with something else. It's kind of, it's a little easier, because odds are, if one thing was successful, it may not be as successful, but you're going to stick with the one that brought you, as they say. And hopefully the next project of his will be successful. But if you're talking to somebody brand new that's getting into crypto, what are a couple pieces of advice? Like, what are the first things that they need to do to really have long-term success? Like you said, 8 years. That's where your mind needs to be. It's going to take 8 years, but it's going to work if I do what couple things first.
I would say study holding your coins to yourself, holding your tokens to yourself. Like, learn how to use a Ledger wallet or a Treasure wallet. That's number one, because you don't want to leave your stuff on these exchanges, because like 3 of them went down in the past year, and these are the big ones too. FTX, Gemini didn't really go down, but it had major problems. If
You couldn't get your funds
you couldn't
off.
you couldn't take your funds out at all if you did one of their interest accounts.
Right.
So that's and I was like, wow, this is a multi-billion-dollar company that still
Right.
couldn't get your money back. So not to talk about the smaller exchanges. So learn how to do self-custody, and then look for the small coins that have good fundamentals. Like, do research on them, read the white paper. If you don't feel like reading the white paper, at least watch like tons of YouTube videos on it before you start throwing your money at it. And then
watch the people that are willing to read the white paper, or even read it online. That's one of the things I like about your channel. I'll even give Xen Crypto some credit. He does a good job about learning live, and I think there's a lot of value in that, because people don't want to be alone. And even if you're learning, they're typically willing to watch if they like your channel. But sorry, I cut you off. Go ahead.
No, you're fine. Like, you definitely need to learn about the crypto itself, and then follow cryptos that have a big community in them, because communities sometimes, the tokenomics are necessary and the security is necessary. But look at Solana. Solana has been hacked like 4 or 5 times now, but the community is so big that no one cares. Solana is still like a top 10 coin, top 20 coin. And
yeah, at least, right? I mean,
yeah.
It's interesting that that they can survive that, and that the community doesn't care. I feel like, I don't know. I feel like I would really care, like the little things. Like, Hex is just a front end, that website, but being able to say it's never been down in 3 years and 2 months, like, that's a pretty big deal. And it feels like it's a big deal because all the other coins have been down in that same period of time. And I feel like, going back to Xen, that is what's exciting because the speed of which they're developing and moving, and they seem to not be having any hiccups. Like I know they had one little issue on another chain, but I'm only doing Zen on ETH. Are you doing Zen primarily on ETH, or are you doing it on a bunch of chains?
I'm only doing it on ETH mainly
Okay.
because it's the most expensive to get into, and that has the most. I know it has the most users, but it doesn't have the most wallets. But the reason why it doesn't have the most wallets is because each wallet costs like $5, $6 to get it. So people are not, they don't have unlimited money like with Binance
Oh
or
my
with
god.
Matic.
Oh, okay. Is that where um so the most wallets for Zen are actually on Matic or Binance? Is that what you
I
said?
think it's either Matic or Binance. I can look right now, but
Yeah.
they have way more wallets. But Ethereum has way more money on it, way more
Right.
liquidity on it. Yeah.
And
Actual
what
dollar.
do you utilize Zen.network, or do you utilize Zen Turbo? What website do you use when you're trying to educate yourself or
Yeah.
get the numbers?
To get the numbers, I use CoinGecko to see
Okay.
the actual price, and then I look at my mints on Zen Turbo,
Okay.
and that's pretty much.
Gotcha.
And then of course Twitter too. I use Twitter a lot. That's about it. That's all you really need. And then YouTube, if there's any like new YouTube.
Right. What
I
are
know
you
he streams a lot, so like one of his videos, or just people talking about Zen in general, and Pulsechain and Hex and all of that.
Yeah. Yeah, what are you we'll do a quick like top 5. What so next bull run, like
Mhm.
just everybody be patient, like the bull run will come. It like you go look at 10-year periods
Mhm.
and the stock market is always up. As long as you pick the correct, like even if you just pick, 1900, 1910, 1920, even after the Great Depression, it bounces back. And you'll after like what was it, 2001, it bounced up, but it technically didn't reach a new high. And then it we had the '08 crash, and then took till like 14 or 15. So in that case, was the only time where it was the stock market took like 14 years to reach a new high.
Mhm.
But I think amazing things are going to happen in these other um, smaller coins, altcoins that have the right amount of liquidity, which I think Hex has been that. There's some interesting things going on, but I think it's in preparation for Pulsechain. I think as we get closer, I think liquidity is going to be pulled, and we're going to see a lot less liquidity in Hex. Do you agree with that? Because they don't want to get caught in a weird situation before Pulsechain goes live.
I think that more people are just going to buy Hex in general, and then when more people buy Hex, the price is just going to increase
Okay.
because people want to mirror the Hex on Ethereum, and they want to get the same version on Pulsechain. So because tons of people are buying, the price will just shoot up by itself.
Yeah. Would you encourage people to buy and hold? Like, I've heard you talk a little bit about, I don't know if trading is a word you want to use, but you know, uh, being smart. But would you encourage people, like, if we get a date, like, hey, yeah, get in. Obviously, you're gonna get your copy of your tokens, but be prepared to do what? Should they be prepared to sell
Mhm.
immediately on ETH and put all that money into Pulsechain? Because a lot of people think, like what is going on with Pulse and PulseX right after Pulsechain goes live, they think Hex on ETH is going to be the PulseX,
Yeah,
and Hex on Pulsechain is going to be the Pulsechain. Everyone's going to flock to it, and the price is going to see huge increases. Where Hex on ETH is going to see it's going to plummet. Do you
yeah.
think that's correct?
I mean, yeah, it could possibly be correct, but the best advice I would give people right now for Pulsechain, anyways, is to buy as much Hex as you can, and then when Pulsechain is about to come out, Hex is going to shoot up because people. That's just where the most liquidity is just going to be. It's just going to be in Hex,
Right.
and this could actually make sure that the Hex on Ethereum side stays high up. Meanwhile, the Hex on Pulsechain will, of course, remain high because it's a richer hard coin. and then Pulsechain will be very high, and then PulseX might go down, but even PulseX probably won't go down that much. So I would just advise everyone to buy as much hex as possible. That hex is going to shoot up, and then you can use that hex, exchange it for Pulsechain, or exchange it for PulseX.
Yeah, so it's basically prep, buy as much as you can, you're comfortable with, and then just chill. If you have something else you want to do, fine. But like you said, it's going to be really volatile.
Mm-hmm.
And then history says that these things tend to stabilize in about a month. And so that if we say that is probably, Occam's razor, right? What's the most likely? Well, 30 days, Pulse and PulseX will kind of stabilize. Same thing for Hex on ETH and Hex on Ethereum, or Hex on Ethereum and Hex on Pulsechain. So yeah, I think that's really, really good advice. If you were to say, forget Pulsechain, that ecosystem, forget Hex, what are a few things you're excited about, maybe in terms of programming development? Like what are some cool potential innovations that might help bring people in, or that you just think are cool, coins wise?
Coins wise,
Yeah.
when it comes to cool, I think that Helium is really cool. The Internet of Things type token. That's a really cool thing.
You
Polkadot
mentioned that.
Yeah, Helium is actually really cool. They have some problems getting people to use it, and its price is going down, of course, like the rest of crypto, but it definitely has a lot of potential. Polkadot is really cool too. Polkadot.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you. What is cool about, like, forget the price right now. Like, I'm gonna treat Helium like Xen. Like, okay, Xen is a great onboarding tool. There's a few other things I like about it aside from the price. And then if the price ever has positive price performance, awesome. But what about Helium? So forget the price right now. What is it that you think is innovative or cool about Helium? I don't know what it does, or what is
Helium
its purpose.
allows you to connect your Internet of Things, your small devices like your smartwatch or maybe your thermostat. You connect it to a system, a mesh network that doesn't necessarily need a router. And then you can share information with the public, and you can anonymize yourself to make yourself anonymous, but then you can share your heart rate information to the wider public, and then people can do research on all types of information that you share. And then if you decide to share your information through Helium, like either you run a router or you connect your device to a Helium router, maybe you receive a small amount. It depends on how your protocol or your program is running. Then you will receive rewards in Helium token. So if you run your own router, you could do a 5G router. They just came out with one. We could do a router that's hooked up to your landline internet, and then you receive a little bit of Helium.
So I have a mesh router. It's called a Nighthawk. So is Helium? So I think I've got what you're saying. I definitely understand. Like, Helium is the token. They're basically trying to onboard people, and the information that they're gathering, you're going to share it with them, but they're going to know that this is my information, but not necessarily is it going to be tied to my name, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Like, they'll know all the, like, oh yeah, he's 36, he's a male, he's whatever info I give them, and then a lot of it is health data, right? Is that what you said? Heart rate.
You can use your health data if you want to, but of course,
It's up to me.
The laws that they have, the HIPAA laws.
Right. Yeah.
So,
and who, where do you think this obviously some of these things, sometimes when they take off, they really, really take off. Like, I would say, Under Armour did a really good job with like a running software, and that led to them creating another app that just had like health info, and would give you info based upon just what age group you're in and all this other stuff. Are they trying to gather just health data, or is it data of basically whatever you're willing to give them?
I think they're trying to get all types of data, not just
Okay.
health data. I'm not really sure about the details too much, but they're
Oh,
definitely
that's
trying to
cool.
get all types of data. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the other one you were mentioning was Polkadot.
Yeah.
And why do you think, like, what excites you about Polkadot?
That allows you to um, operate between many different chains, like all the chains. It wants to connect all the chains all the time.
So is
Um,
it a cross-chain swap type?
it's, it's,
I've heard of Polkadot, of course, but I don't know anything about it.
it's like a cross chain network. So it'll allow you to directly talk to Bitcoin while you're on Zen or while you're on Maddox network. You can just
Interesting.
exchange directly with any network that decides to join their network too.
Do
So it
you
makes
use it a lot?
not really, not yet. Right now, it's just going through its test phases. So a lot of apps are building on top of it, and it's doing a lot of
Yeah.
testing. And you can play around with it, but it's not it's not at its final form, I guess you could say.
Right.
Yeah,
That's cool.
the price action is really good. It's been good for a while now. So
Yeah,
um,
I see it on the lists all the time. Like when when I go to CMC or whatever, it's always on there.
it's always
Um,
top.
yeah, but I just had never looked into that's a crazy thing. You go and like you feels like, hey, we're in crypto as deep as you can get, and then you go look at the top 100 and you're like, okay, yeah, I've heard of these, but I don't know what any of these
Yeah,
do.
there's so many. It's ridiculous
It's
how
crazy.
detailed it is, and these are tokens that are worth, and some of them you've never even heard of. It's so wild,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So we're
You
early, but
could
we're not that early at the same time.
exactly. It's like we're early, but like we're in the 4%. But then when you calculate 4% of 8 billion, like, oh, well, there's people also that are getting turned on, like a Jack Levin. Like Jack Levin's been busy doing other things. And
Mhm.
then he knew all about crypto. But why did it take until 2022 to decide he wanted to go to dive all in? Well, only he could tell you, but I imagine he freed up a little bit of time and then a couple things got him excited and he thought, "Hey, I want to participate. I want to help. I want to spread awareness and onboard and do all this stuff." And I think my mind always goes to onboarding. Like the coolest things are things that are going to help to onboard or to help people who make it in crypto to be able to thrive. And that's why when I was talking to Jesse, like, yes, I sacrificed a little bit for liquid loans. I didn't for Power City, but like $3.5 million has been sacrificed through Power City. And I don't remember the amount for liquid loans, but a lot of people have. And those two are kind of in the final process of being, and they're in the process of being finalized, but we're waiting on V3
Mhm.
of Pulsechain. And I was just thinking how exciting it is. Like you just mentioned, okay, Polkadot, they're still working on a couple things. We have Pulsechain and PulseX. We have the whole Zen roadmap. And then there's just so many exciting things
Mhm.
going on. I was thinking, it's kind of in a weird way, it's kind of nice that the bull run's not here right now because I want to see what we can do, even in our own little corner, with Pulsechain and PulseX. Like, what can our community do when all these things are cooking and are running really, really well, and then we have the happening and a full bull market? And I think repeating what Hex did is possible.
Mhm.
Absolutely is possible, and that's why it's so important to watch your videos and stuff because you got to be ready. Because if you're late, and you talk to people who got in the first month of Hex, even if they got in day one and didn't get as good of a deal, versus the people who got in a year later, well, they missed out on 5, 6, 7,000 X.
Yeah.
They missed out on a lot, and so it's exciting to be knowing that these things are coming out. And so I guess it's the other side of the coin of the impatience and the frustration of delays. Well,
Mhm.
the other option is you miss out. And so I would rather have to wait a year or 2 years
Yeah.
and be here at the right time than, have it be going the second I learn about it and miss out on some opportunity. But what
The
go
fact that
ahead.
we're this excited and that we're coming out with all these applications during the bear market, this is before the halvening, during the bear market, and we're seeing which protocols strive and which ones die, and people are excited about the ones that are still living. Means that if we're this excited when nothing is happening in the wider ecosystem, like no one cares about crypto, imagine when they start caring about crypto again, like 2024, 2025, right? It's just going to make things shoot up dramatically. So that's why I like being into it right now, studying as much as possible right now, making sure that you don't get rug pulled right now, right? You don't want to lose your money
Right.
before you even get your money. Is just beyond important. You have to be able to do all those things.
What was 2018 like? So yeah, you were learning, but by that time you'd already been in a year, and that's kind of that was deep bear market, and it led into 2019.
Yep.
But what was what was the development like then? Is it totally night and day, that bear versus this bear?
Yeah, it's totally different. Like then, not that many people knew about anything. There weren't that many YouTube videos to study about anything. There was literally no books about crypto, like besides maybe pamphlets or one or two books that you could find on
Right.
Amazon.
Yeah, yeah.
But there was nothing. So then I learned so much about it. I saw its potential. I was like, this is great. And then when it crashed and it didn't come back, I was like, man, screw this. So I said, screw this until 2018. And then I
Mhm.
got into this bull market. And in this bull market, everyone was expecting to blow off top. So I sold my coins, but I sold them a little bit later than I was supposed to. But it's okay. I still made like some profit, but not like crazy profit.
Right.
So the problem was with 2018 is I said, screw this. I hate this. So I didn't come back until like 2020, like the beginning of 2020. So I could have been investing for like 2 years, but I didn't invest
Mhm.
in 2 years. I invested it started in like 2020. So I wasn't able to make as much as I could have. But now that I know details about it, I can start investing now when the prices are at their absolute bottom. Like Hex, for example, it might go down again, it might not, but Bitcoin, I don't think is ever going to go below 14,000. I don't think so.
Okay, so obviously Richard Hart famously said 11K and pray. It's going to be around 11K. Why do you think 14K? I'll put words in your mouth. 14K is the bottom. Why do you think that
Mainly because
compared to 11K?
historically, this has been the bottom, like these few months. So the bottom usually happens around October, November
Mhm.
of the year after the peak. So we've already gone through October, November, and during our own October, November, it was even worse for us because like Gemini crashed, Three Arrows crashed, FTX crashed, all these
Right.
companies crashed and burned at the same exact time, and that's usually when the bottom happens around November. So like it all crashed, and then Bitcoin went down to like maybe 15,500. It was a couple months ago. That was the lowest it's gone,
Yeah, yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
about 15 to
Well,
5. And then some people are like, oh yeah, so Mt. Gox is about to release. Mt. Gox got hacked, and all their coins are about to be released to the ecosystem, right? So a lot of
mhm.
people like to do that, but um, even when people release their coins, it's going to be about I think $3 billion worth of Bitcoin is going to be released. Even when that
Yeah.
happens, people are going to buy the price. Like people that are into crypto are going to know that, oh yeah, this is coming. That means I can get Bitcoin for cheap. Everyone that's into crypto is definitely going to buy all the Bitcoin that comes out. So the price might go down a little bit, but it's not going to. Maybe it goes down like 20%.
Yeah.
20% from
Interesting.
now is still like, I think it will still be like 17,000, $18,000.
Yeah, yeah, 30 yeah. Yeah, because it's had this it'll be interesting to see what happens tomorrow. This being today's Tuesday, January 31st.
Mm-hmm,
Every time you have the CPI come out, you
mm-hmm.
see some movement, and then the Fed comes out the next day, and then it's almost like counterintuitive. If it's really bad news, you see a run. And if it's really good news, when they come out on Wednesday, then you see a sell off because it's kind of buy the rumor, sell the news event. And it is, it's super. Sorry, just had a weird alert on my computer, but yeah, it, it's going to be interesting. I think just to kind of wrap up, because thank you so much for your time. I don't want to take too much of your time, but
Mhm.
I am. I don't know that anything in business has ever. I got into solar like in 2014, and that made me pretty excited. And I was able to work for a company. And then I actually started a company, and that's actually where the name Green Day Power came from. We're trying to think of a cool name, and anyways, ended up selling the company. I got to keep the name, and so I was like, well, I have the name, I might as well use it. It's trademarked and everything, and I remember getting excited about solar and the potential, but man, that was 1/100th of the excitement that I have with crypto, and I feel like a lot of people that I see and meet, and I would include you in this, they have that same type of excitement, and
Mhm.
I wondered if this is like, I don't think people got really excited about the industry of credit cards when they came out. Like I wondered what makes this different. Is it just the opportunity, like the real potential to pull people out of a lower class
Mhm.
structure? Is that it, or why? Like I can't even pinpoint why exactly am I so excited. I have three businesses and things I do, but every extra moment, like I'm trying to figure out ways to not do that and do more of this. And I'm like, why do we love this so much? What are your thoughts? Like, why do you love this so much?
I think because it gives like the opportunity for anyone to become wealthy with it. If you study enough and if you don't just fall for any stupid trap, it's almost guaranteed that you're going to get wealthy in it. But you have to be patient too, right? So it's not the funny thing is that crypto is not a get rich quick scheme. It seems like it is if you
Yeah.
listen to the news and you pay attention to a few people that made a couple million here and there, right?
Hmm.
But you have to learn patience. You have to learn how to not get involved in like stupid coins or scam coins, pretty much.
Right.
You have to be intelligent with it. And then you also have to learn how to work for it. Like you're going to be spending, let's say you started today, you're probably going to be spending the next 4 years saving money and investing into crypto. So saving money for 4 years is a very intelligent, lifelong lesson that you can learn. And you benefit dramatically. And then also like the number you can become insanely rich from this too. That's definitely that's definitely a good part of it too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the technology is awesome. Like NFTs are really awesome. Like you can integrate NFTs into video games, and then you have the one of one outfit in your video game or something that you can sell. It's crazy, right? There's so many different ways that it can go.
I feel like NFTs and video games, as you mentioned, that are going to be the thing. Like when you were talking earlier, I was like, okay, I get what you're saying, but I don't know that it's just time. Like time is needed to get to the next bull run, but there is going to be a catalyst along with that like the smartphone changed
Mhm.
everything. Like you couldn't do it would be hard to do uh it'd be virtually impossible to do like grocery delivery because you have to have the guy showing up, the DoorDash guy. Like he needs the phone, he needs the GPS, he needs all that
Exactly.
technology. And it's like, okay, well, crypto, like the phone is already here and it's helping a lot. Like with
Mhm.
the iPhone is helping, the smartphone is helping a lot. But what's going to be the next catalyst? And I think actually, as you're talking, like it might be NFTs, just getting people familiar and
Mhm.
like they're going to be using NFTs for like whether it's QR code signature stuff or NFTs for video games or NFTs for your concert ticket. Like there's just all I think NFTs are going to become they're going to have a lot more uses, and they might be the catalyst that gets people to use crypto. And I kind of thought it was the other way around. Like people are in crypto and they're going to gravitate towards NFTs. I think it might be that NFTs,
Mhm.
that concept brings people into crypto.
Right.
Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, NFTs are definitely never going away. Like they're going to be used in stuff like your home loan documents or your title. I just had to get a title for my car, and they wouldn't
Oh,
accept any copies of a title. I had to go to the DMV to get a title, and the DMV told me that it's going to take 6 weeks for me to get my title, which is crazy, which is ridiculous because they're the only ones that have the original, but it's still going to take them 6 weeks. So if they had like an NFT version of my title, for example, it's impossible to defraud. It's impossible to make a fraud version of
Right.
my title of the NFT, and I'll be able to show my title to my bank account like immediately. But
They
just stuff like that,
generate it
and
and it's done.
I would have paid like triple the price that I would pay to the DMV if I had the NFT version of it, right? Just because
Yeah.
time is money, so I needed the
Right.
title now. So just reasons like that is why NFTs are definitely here to stay.
Wait, have you created, and I can't remember if you've created NFTs. I feel like I've seen some
Mhm.
NFTs on your channel, but it might just be videos you've done.
I bought some NFTs, yeah, but I haven't
Yeah,
created any.
maybe that was it. What do you is there a certain collection or creator? I actually think what Travon is doing is
Mhm.
kind of basic but cool. Like I love I don't know if you want to call it an innovation, but the physical NFT with the rugs. Have you seen the stuff he's
Oh,
doing?
I haven't seen it, no.
So he made rugs of his I call it the more mascot, but it just he made like 6 rugs and he sold them, and he got between 1 and 3 ETH for each one of them. So
Nice. Okay.
he did really, really well off it. And I look at his channel and just generally, like I'm so busy. I haven't had a chance to watch him in a while, but
Mhm.
um I love the fact that someone like him, he's got like 29.7 thousand subs, but he has that YouTube program or whatever it is, whatever it's called, where you can pay him. Like you can join, like you can subscribe, but you can join and do like $1.49 or something. And I thought that is amazing. And when I do interviews, I want to like not only encourage people who I'm talking to, but also I want everyone to know, like, the more we can support people in little ways and we can encourage them to turn ads on, the algorithm will pick them up.
Mhm.
More people will be onboarded, and guess what? They'll have to sell less of their coins, and it'll hold the price up. And it'll be this. It's a win-win. And so
Yeah,
I hear people say like, "Oh, well, he's got a paid group," and it's well, hold on. Hex is a paid group if you want to look at it like that. Like he made a coin and we decided to buy into it. Like if somebody if somebody can provide this info that there's no fixed place to go get educated on
mhm.
and you find them, who cares if it costs a little bit? It's so hard to try to find one place that has all the info about liquidity providing and
Right.
web3 and NFTs, and so that's why I think you're doing a great job, man. I really, really think that your channel does a good job about covering like kind of a wide swath, like lots
Mhm.
of different topics. Your 7-minute video on like breaking down NFTs, and then like, hey, this is what I think would be a good strategy for Pulsechain and PulseX. Anyways, where do you see your channel going in the next year? Do you want to pick it up? Do you like the pace you're at?
Yeah, I want the channel to grow, and in order to do that, you have to make tons of videos. There's no way around it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm trying to do about 1 or 2 videos a day. But that's
Okay.
very difficult because I'm very busy, right?
Right.
So I'm trying to I guess I would say I'm trying to increase the quality of my videos versus the quantity. So I think I'm going to maintain about 1 video a day, but then instead of
Pick
going to
up the
2 video
quality.
pick up the quality. So instead of doing 2 videos a day, I'll just pick up the quality of 1 video a day.
I've
And that's
noticed the editing, like the attention to editing. You're like they're getting better and better. You're doing
yeah.
awesome. What do you use? Do you use DaVinci or do you use
Yeah,
different?
I use DaVinci Resolve, yeah.
Do you use the free version or the studio version?
The free version. The studio version is not that much better unless you're producing like
Like
movies.
movies, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, unless you're
They're
producing movies or like music videos, you don't need the official version.
right, right. That's cool. Well, man, I will let you go. I appreciate
Mhm.
your time so much. I had a great time talking to you, and I think we should do it again. And I will I'll definitely be like anytime I can help in any way, even if it's just tweeting out a new video and stuff. Like I think what you're doing is awesome. So hopefully, hopefully we can talk again soon. And yeah, man, stay safe out there.
Yeah, definitely. Special announcement. I'm now with 𝘊𝘰𝘯𝘦 and Trezor Wallet. 𝘊𝘰𝘯𝘦 now allows you to do very intelligent AI-based algorithmic calculations so you can get the most from your trading practices when you trade cryptocurrencies of all types. Trezor Wallet allows you to safely and securely keep your cryptocurrency to yourself so you can have self-custody. Remember, not your keys, not your coin. So click the links below so you can have a 𝘊𝘰𝘯𝘦 account, and click the other link below so you can have a Trezor Wallet all to yourself.